Hello. This is the first live I'm actually doing on YouTube in this format. So welcome to everybody who's here. I'm excited to see you. Today I'll be talking a little bit about balance and the components that go into balance, because I think it's really important when people say that they're struggling with their balance and it goes on for a little bit of time. Usually there's something missing. So today's session will bring to light all of the components of balancing and what it takes to do that. So hello, I am live again here. Today we're working on balance. I thought we would start off with that. Let's start with a little bit of ankle and foot strength, shall we? So one of the first components to balancing is your ankle strength, your ankle mobility, and how it relates to your foot. So you'll need a set of fascia balls, or one fascia ball or one tennis ball. I'm going to go ahead and take that out and get it ready. But first, I want to just come standing on the mat or the floor, wherever you are, and just stand up nice and tall and take a deep breath. And shift your weight into your heels. Now, the first part of this is if you're learning balance or you're developing that skill, you may want to start with one toe on the floor, and I recommend one big toe on the floor, standing on your left foot first. The next thing to do is to notice how your standing foot may be twitching a little bit, right and left. So if you're not noticing that, stand with both of your feet together and close your eyes. And as you stand here, you might notice that your body is maybe moving side to side or in a circle. There's a little twitch here and a grab there. And that is all to keep you balanced. I think sometimes people can mistake movement in the ankle or the leg or the hip for not being balanced, like everything has to be steady and not move. But that's actually not true. Balance, I like to say, is a verb. We don't achieve a noun called balance, but what we do is we balance, like the activity of balancing. So if you're doing really well with one toe on the ground, keep letting your ankle twitch, keep letting your lower leg, hip, knee twitch, and just stand on one foot. Stand up nice and tall with your head over your hips, and then see what that feels like on side two. Either balance with one toe on the floor or no toe on the floor, and just feel what that feels like. All right, now we'll grab a small ball. This one I'm using is a fascia ball. And when I'm using this, what I'm going to use is, this is about the size of it. So if you don't have one of these, you might have a tennis ball lying around or something small like that. So come to wherever you are, your mat or wherever you're standing, and place it on the floor, and we'll roll the sole of the foot. So you have several, let me move this up so you can see a little bit better. And so you move this up and you get to roll your foot out. And because you want a little bit more substantial grounding through your feet, so that's what this does. You can roll across the ball panel of your foot, and up and down is another technique, all through the sole of the foot. And something I've really been enjoying lately is side to side, all the way down. down, the sole of the foot. Now is a little plantar fascia stretch. So if you put the first 2 or 3 toes against the ball and walk forward, lift your heel, it's going to give you a nice little stretch through there. I'll do 3 of these. Do 3 of these with me. And now the foot that you just rolled out, put it on the floor and just compare how that feels one foot to the other foot. So you may feel like you have more purchase against the ground, like there's a little something, there's a little more pressure with your foot and the floor is able to put a little bit more pressure back up on the sole of your foot. So that when you go to balance, sometimes this makes it much easier. So if you have one toe down or if you have your whole foot up, that's how you go from here. Now let's roll the other foot. The whole sole of the foot, the balls of the foot, even your pinky toe has a ball underneath it. And we usually refer to only the big toe ball as the ball of the foot, but actually all your toes have one. And I love this. This one's been my favorite recently. Side to side, all the way down the foot. And then the plantar fascia stretch. So over here, the 2 or 3 biggest toes up against the ball, the whole rest of the sole of the foot on the floor with a little heel up until you feel a nice, gentle stretch. And then stand on the floor and notice what that feels like. Now with your newly rolled out foot, practice your balance. You can use one toe on the floor. You can lift it up. You can start to lift it up a little bit and see how long you can balance on one foot and put the toe down and lift it and lower it. Excellent. And for anybody who's very seasoned at balance and wants to take it up a notch, you're always welcome to do this with me. And it's just to create a little bit more instability so that you challenge your strength and you challenge your balance. So if at any point that's you feel like, I would like a little bit more. What you would do is instead of balancing on the floor, you would take a yoga block and balance on it. And that makes your ankle twitch a little bit more. And this is how you build a whole lot of ankle strength. Now, another thing to do when you balance is to make sure that you're not pushing back into your knee or locking your knees out. When you lock your knees out, that usually means that you're doing some kind of pelvic tilt or tuck that may be disrupting the ability to properly align over your hip. Now, your hip is probably one of the more important parts of balance, because if I come and take my finger and push you over with your shoulder and you can get your hips underneath you, you can restore your balance. But if I come and push your hips, well, that's going to really throw you off balance. So your hips are kind of where you stabilize in whatever balance position you're in. So let's do a couple of exercises together to also become aware of what else is involved in your balance. So vision is one of those things. And if you're looking at me and we pick up a leg and then I move suddenly, it's likely that you will move suddenly as well. You'll move if you're staring right at me. But if you look at something kind of past me, maybe this little navy blue area of the painting or so. There's also a nice little light socket here to focus on. If you just focus on those points with soft eyes, with a soft gaze, and you balance, and I move, twitch, or even fall, you won't fall with me. You'll stay steady and balance. Another thing that's involved is length through the spine. So the taller you get, the better you will be at balance. But what happens sometimes is our brains play a trick on us, right? So if we're here and we're balancing, we're like losing our balance. And one of the things that your body likes to do is to hunker in on itself. It likes to collapse in on itself to protect you. That's kind of our protection mode. But in reality, when you're balancing, you want to lengthen through your spine completely, as much as you can as you balance. And that will help you stay steady in whichever balance position you're working on. Again, you might have one toe on the floor. You might be lifting your foot, but also putting one foot on the ground here and there for a little bit of stability, right? All right, let's take a breath and put both feet flat on the floor. And again, get a sense of what the action of balancing is. So if you stand tall with me with your feet touching and close your eyes and shift your weight into your heels and breathe. Make sure your knees aren't locked out and start to notice any movement, any little twitch or grab in the ankle, any little twitch and grab in the thigh or lower leg. Those are the actions of balance. And so you always want to feel that. Go ahead and blink your eyes open. And you always want to feel that when you are balancing. Balancing is a verb. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Let's move on to proprioception. So I want to come up and say hello. Hi to everyone who is joining. Strong legs, perfect balance. No, there's no such thing as perfect balance. Perfect balance, let's practice balance. Balance is a practice. And why I say that is because when we are getting into perfect balance, well, there's no such thing, because at some point you will come out. You'll have to come out of your balance. And at some point, you will need to catch yourself out of balance or make a move in some way. So perfect balance, I don't know what that means to you. But to me, I don't think that there's such a thing as perfect balance. Well, now we can develop better balance. And for me, I think the main thing with balance is that, in yoga, for example, we might practice like tree pose. Or, if we're a little bit more seasoned, we might practice tree pose. And then we might start doing all kinds of fancy things from here. However, and this is a really, really good practice because it does develop us in order to be able to do all kinds of balancing moves in life and becoming just, a really good balancing machine, so to speak. Our human body develops balance. But where we really, really need balance, where it really makes a difference in our lives, is when we go to the park and we're hiking up a hill, and there's something a little wobbly on the ground, and we just slip, right? Slip. Or when we're walking somewhere and there's a rug in the way that we didn't see, and we trip over it. We are not going to fall into our very practiced, very polished tree pose, are we? It's going to look something like this, or that, right? That's the position you'll fall into. So what I love to do, what I want to do with you now, is practice some of those positions. So take a breath with me and find a little spot to move around. We'll practice what I call an around the world balance. Meaning, I'm going to choose a leg. So if you're right-handed, you probably balance better on your left leg. If you're left-handed, it's about a 50-50 shot. So pick the leg that you'll balance on. And with the other leg, bring that leg all the way around your body with all of the balancing principles we've practiced so far. Your vision, we'll get into proprioception in a moment, but all the way around, let your ankle twitch, let your leg twitch, and practice all of these different positions. And begin to notice where your hips are in space. Begin to notice where your hips are in space. If you trip over something and end up in a position like, right, like this, or like this, and you can get your hips underneath you, then you can restore your balance and lift up. So I want you to notice how your hips are moving in this around the world balance. And then switch sides and practice that. And again, don't look too hard at me per se, but look past me. Maybe at the thing on your wall that's behind your monitor, screen, phone, wherever you're at. And just do some different types of movements. Do some different types of movements and notice how your hips move with you as you're making these movements. So again, imagine if you lose your balance and you're leaning to the side, if you can counterbalance with your hips and get your hips underneath you, then you can always restore your balance. So this is another good exercise to practice, is an around the world moving balance, meaning like not tree pose or not getting into one static, stuck position to balance into, right? These are some of the more, people call them advanced. I just say, you know, after you've been working this a while, you might want to do some different moves in order to keep your balance getting better and better and better, right? Cool. All right, keep practicing that around the world balance, switching sides a few times and noticing what's there. I'm going to come up and see who's here and say hello. Yeah, okay, you're welcome. Yeah, that answered your question about that, on what perfect means. And I'm practicing, you know, having really good language, because the way that you talk to your body is important. I've healed a whole lot of injuries in my own body, and I help people heal injuries. That's kind of one of the main things that I do with biomechanics here. But, you know, when we talk to our bodies or we say, I'm bad at balancing, then, you know, that has to keep being true in order for us to be kind of right about what we say. So if we say I'm practicing balance, or I'm practicing and I'm getting better at balance, or for the folks who are healing, I always say, you don't have a bad side, but you have a healing side. And so we start referring to it that way. That way it doesn't show up as bad, it shows up as healing. Hi to all the folks just coming in. So let's talk about proprioception next, and then we'll close with a little balance sequence. So proprioception is kind of like your bat signal. It's how, you know, we get up in the dark in the middle of the night and we can't see anything, but somehow we make it to the bathroom without falling down. We know the wall is there because we can feel it and we know we've seen it before, but also we know it's right there. We can kind of sense the presence of the bed over here and make a pathway. That is really important to keep honed and skilled. And many people seem to lose proprioception after the age of 60. And this is where age comes in a little bit. I really don't like to talk about age as much as physical skill, but in this case, it seems like it usually happens after the age of 60, and it can take you into a balance decline pretty quickly. But I'm going to show you how to practice proprioception. So I'll choose an easy exercise sequence that we can all do together, okay? And we'll do that with closed eyes. And so if you have an exercise sequence that you usually do, and you do that with closed eyes, then, or you can close your eyes and practice that with closed eyes. That'll help you practice your proprioception. So, for example, if we're standing here, we're just going to do the very first part of a sun salutation. So what we'll do is we'll take our hands to the heart, and we'll take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And we'll get really, really tall, standing over the heels. Next, we'll just inhale and lift the arms and lift the chest and come into a really small back bend. And then as we exhale, we'll bend forward at the waist. And you can practice a forward fold with your elbows resting on your thighs, your lower thighs, or you can rest your ribs on your lower thighs. Bend your knees and let your head hang. And hold here for a breath. And then on your next inhale, lift your chest all the way up with a straight spine and come into a little back bend again. And exhale, take the hands at the heart. All right, now let's practice that with closed eyes. So we'll do exactly the same thing, but this time, no peeking. All right, so hands to the heart. Take a deep breath in and out. And then inhale and lift your chest. Come into a small little back bend. And then exhale, forward fold. And we'll go all the way either with the ribs touching the thighs or the elbows touching the thighs and your head hanging toward the floor. Keep your weight in your heels. And of course, if at any time you feel like, oh, I might fall, of course, open your eyes and don't allow that to happen. On your next inhale, sweep the arms up however you wish. Come into a small little standing back bend. And then take the hands to the heart into prayer or namaskar. And then take another breath. Keep your eyes closed. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale and fold. Hold your forward fold, whatever variation you're in, for a whole breath. And on your inhale, lift up. Lift from the top of the heart into a little standing back bend. And then exhale and bring the hands to the heart. All right, now flutter your eyes open. And that is the very beginning of learning how to build the skill of your proprioception or hone that skill. And from there, we just make it a little more challenging and more challenging and more challenging for you. To really develop that skill. But it's something that people naturally tend to lose at some point over the age of 60, but you don't have to. As soon as you see it coming, or even before, like, I'm turning 50, I'm already starting to do closed-eyed exercises, and of course I get to do them with clients who were working on proprioception. I also work with athletes, and so we always train that at a really high skill level for them to be able to have better balance on the bike, better balance on whatever they're practicing. So it's one thing to keep in mind. I'm going to come up and say hello and check for any questions. Hello to the new folks who are here, and to the folks who are still here. We'll end this live session with a short balance sequence. So I'm going to go through all the different, or several different variations on balance. And it's just a good practice if you're beginning to really want to develop this skill. So stand with your feet, all 10 toes turning forward. Remember not to lock your knees out. That if your knees tend to lock out, bend them a little bit. And then stand with your head over the back of your hips and the back of your hips over the back of your heels. And that will help lift your chest. That will help elongate your spine. From here, if you're new to balancing or you're struggling with your balance a little bit, keep one toe on the floor, and then the next step is to begin to lift the toe up. Just to begin to lift the toe up, and when you need to, that toe is available to help you steady and get your balance. Remember that your hips are always in the middle of your footprint. So if, for example, you start to lean to the side, get your hips underneath you, and you can restore your balance really easily. Let's switch sides. For any folks who are a little bit more seasoned at balance, go ahead and lift one knee. And if you still are really nice and tall with your chest lifted, you're welcome to interlace your fingers under your knee joint and breathe. For any folks who are really seasoned at balance and want a little extra, you may balance on a block with me, and this will help. This is a really good knee exercise too. This one is kickstand here, knee up or interlaced here. And anytime you change positions, like we're about to take the knee out. So if you're here, I want you to open up here, and you can still remain in kickstand or with one toe on the floor. And wherever you are in your balance practice, these are all just options for you. Allow the twitch and the grab to happen here. Anytime you feel unsteady, you can use your arms as a counterbalance. There's a reason why those tightrope walkers hold a pole, and you have built-in poles called arms when you balance. You want to balance long enough to where your ankle starts to really fatigue, it gets tired. So I'm starting to feel a little fatigue in some of the lower leg muscles. You want to balance that long so that you take 2 breaths while your muscles are feeling tired, and then step out. Take a breath before you go to your second side. So again, I'll go through all the different variations. You can have one toe on the floor. You could stay on the floor and just balance the other foot on top of the other one. Here are your poles right there. For anyone who wants more, and I do mean more, a block for balancing. Just nice and easy. Now when you move from one position to the next, we're about to lift the knee. If you have your toe off the floor, pick a moment where you already feel steady, and then inhale and exhale to lift the knee. You're welcome to interlace here if you wish. And the longer, meaning the taller you are, the easier it is to balance. Remember that if you lose your balance, you put your hips underneath you, whichever way you counterbalance with your hips. And you can always catch yourself to come up. Now choose a moment when you feel really steady and solid, and then move your knee out to the side. If you have your toe on the floor, knee out, toe on the floor. Or if you're here, knee out. Bring the knee back to the center. Wait for a moment for that lower leg to get nice and fatigued. And then once you get really tired and you want to come out of it, take 2 more breaths. This is where a lot of your ankle strength will develop, in these last 2 breaths. And then when you come out, take a little walk around and notice how stable you feel. Thanks to everybody who was joining me today. It's really nice being with you. I don't know where all of you are in the world, but wherever you are, you can type it in there if you want to. My name is Allison Rush, and I teach biomechanics and yoga. And biomechanics is just really kind of a study of how your joints perform under pressure. So the medium is yoga. We have to put it through something. So a lot of the exercises and poses look a little bit like yoga, or maybe they're taken straight from yoga with a little something extra. So if you are not a subscriber yet, hit subscribe to make sure that you know when I'm going live again. And I'll see you again soon. Have a good weekend.